Our first speaker has over 25 years experience in HR, and after more than a decade helping people transition into leadership positions, she now runs her own executive coaching business. Her impressive resume includes exec leadership roles at places like Citibank, Fidelity International, and Quintiles, and she's also a fellow of the Institute of Personnel and Development. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Elsie Akinsanya.
Good morning. That was a lovely, very generous introduction. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you all for having me. So what I find really ironic is that the technophobe in the room is the one that is having to launch this session. Is the one speaking to all of the techies. I am a self-confessed technophobe to the point, I was just sharing with my colleague here, that I bought an iPad recently, and I bought the keyboard, I bought the pen, everything. All still sitting very neatly in my bedroom, in the boxes, because I can't set it up. That's how much of a technophobe I am. But honestly, the subject today is about how to move up without moving out of your organization. And that is a subject I think I can really help you with. So with that, let's get started. So, and you can see that I'm still using paper for my notes, which is, really great. So the truth is that most organizations will track attrition, right? That basically means who's leaving, why are they leaving. Most organizations will do that. What really clever organizations do, and I'm hoping that you're all employed by clever organizations, what clever organizations do is they track retention. And retention is about what keeps people here, what brings them in, what keeps them here, what enables them to grow, what enables them to thrive, what anchors them in this organization. So I'm assuming that you're all working for really great organizations, really clever organizations. And if that's the case, you have to understand that because they're measuring these things, they have to manage it as well. And that's key. So what we're going to discuss here today is important for you as individuals, but for those of you who are representing companies, also important for you to take note of. So, if there are 3 principles that I would like everyone to leave this place with, just 3, it's be intentional. Be intentional. It's build your tribe. And the third one is a very personal motto, right? And I live by it. If you don't ask, you don't get. Those are the 3 principles that if you forget anything else about today, I hope you won't, remember those 3 things. By a show of hands, who accepts that repetition helps retention? Perfect. So I'm going to get you all to repeat after me. Be intentional. Build your tribe. If you don't ask, you don't get. Excellent. We're off to a wonderful start. So to really progress within your employer space, I'd recommend focusing on 3 areas. One is about building your experience. The other is about working on your exposure. And the third, it's really critical, it's about understanding your organization's processes. I'm fascinated when I have conversations with people and they don't have an idea about what their organization does for promotions, for example. So those are the 3 principles that we're going to anchor on today. So when we talk about experience, you're all great people. But what's going to make you exceptional is the experience that you bring to the table. Is being that subject matter expert. It's being that go-to person. It's being that person who, even if you don't know all of the answers, you are able to signpost people to the right answers. You don't always have to know it, but you have to be able to navigate people towards the responses. I think that is key and that is critical. The next thing is I really think it's important to continue to gain experience in different areas as they interest you. Don't just stay in your lane, just stay in your box. In order to progress, you have to broaden out your experience base. Think about what are the opportunities to work on different projects. What is important to your organization today? Try to align yourself with those projects that are happening. Volunteer with employee networks. Do things that matter to the organization, because if it matters to the organization, it's going to matter to stakeholders. And that's a really important place to be. We all have development opportunities. We all have gaps in our experience. That's just an ongoing journey for all of us. Work on those gaps. Be intentional about working on those gaps. So I will share with you, about 10 years ago, quite senior already in HR, but one of the areas I knew that I wasn't particularly strong in was executive compensation. And I don't like numbers, but I knew that that was going to be really important for me to get to where I wanted to go. And so working in a really large organization, it's really difficult to get into spaces that you don't belong naturally. And so I went out. I found myself a non-executive director role. So I was a non-executive director on the board of Hyde Housing. Hyde Housing is a social housing provider in the south of England. It's one of the G15. And a year into being a non-executive director, I actually became the head of their compensation and remuneration committee. Experience. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here is the experience doesn't always have to be in-house. Use experience that you get. I bet 50% of this room has a side hustle. 50% of this room will have something that they do on the side because it's a passion, because it's an area of interest, whatever. Bring those skills into your workplace because they will be valuable to your organization. And last but not least, I would really encourage everybody to build a professional tribe. So I talked about building your tribe. Build a professional tribe. This is the tribe that you go to when you have questions that you're not 100% sure about. This is the tribe that you go to where you can be the answer to somebody else's questions. That's really critical and it's important. And I'm very fortunate to belong to several tribes, but one in particular, which is an international group of HR directors. Just think about making sure that you have a robust professional tribe. The next thing I want to encourage people to do is to work on their exposure. And this is something that some of you would have heard me say in the past, those of you who've heard me speak. But find your mentors, find your sponsors, find those advocates within your organization. Not just one, not just two, find them. Create an ecosystem of sponsors. Create an ecosystem of mentors. Create an ecosystem of people who are going to be able to open doors for you, who are going to be able to connect you to other people. There are so many connections in this room today that will be really impactful for your career future. Maybe not in your organization, but they will help you think about how you can progress within your organization, and that is key. And align these sponsors and these mentors to your aspirations. People can't read your mind. So interesting, whenever I speak to my mentees, the first thing I ask them is, what are you aspiring to? The last question I ask them at the end of every meeting is, how can I help you? Tell people, because people can't read minds. If you need help, ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. Ask. And then be also quite intentional about your exposure. When opportunities present themselves, take them. Take them scared. Take them afraid. Take them worried. Take them. So I will share with you another story. When about 7-8 years ago, I've been on City's coaching faculty since I joined, and I've been a certified coach for more years than I care to think about. But I knew I wanted to be the HR head for Africa and the Middle East. I knew that a long time ago. And so I very intentionally started asking for coaching assignments for the country offices. City is present in 54 countries in EMEA. Emerging markets are 29 of those countries. And I was very intentional about coaching a lot of our country officers. Because when I was ready for that job, it was a slam dunk. My last job before I left City was as the head of emerging markets countries, because I had planned that very intentionally. So be intentional about stakeholders. I've been told to wrap up. So the last thing I want to share with you is about understanding your internal processes. How important is your performance management rating? Do you know whether you're designated as a high potential talent within your organization? Do you know whether your organization ranks people as high potentials, promotables? Do you know what those processes are? What happens with promotions? Do you understand the promotion process of your organization? I was talking to a mentee yesterday at breakfast, and I said to her, so what's happening? When are you getting promoted? Oh, well, I just started to think about it. I said, no, darling. It's too late now. So we're going to start planning for 2023, and your assignment over the next couple of months is to do X, Y, and Z. Be intentional about understanding what your organization's processes are. And simple things, register for job alerts. I mean, that's not difficult. If you want the next job, you want the next step, register for those job alerts so that you understand it. But talk about your aspirations as well to your manager. Use the performance review process. It's annual for most organizations. Sometimes it's biannual. Do it. Have those conversations. Tell them about your aspirations. I personally don't like meaningless networking. I'm a self-confessed introvert that is occasionally and very selectively extroverted, occasionally. And so in that, my networking has to have meaning. Create meaningful networks within your organization. So we've talked about these three things, right? The importance of building your experience, the importance of creating exposure, and understanding your organization. But all of these things are underpinned by being intentional. Be intentional about building your networks. Be intentional about building your experience. Be intentional about creating a tribe for you to support your career journey. And building that tribe is so important, both professionally and with stakeholders. That's so critical. Think about, do I need a mentor? Do I need a coach? What else do I need? And finally, if you don't ask, thank you so much for having me.